Hey folks. Alright, so for those of you who were with us on Friday, you will remember that we started work on item stuff and that we were kind of partway into it when we ran into a bug. Specifically, the system that was in place didn't like to have... Ooh, look at how nicely that plays with different screen sizes. Sorry, I got distracted by Shiny. There we go. Get that back in size. So we click on an object and then we can drag it around, but then when we clicked on it, when we clicked on something like equip or inspect or merge or discard, we ran into this issue where it was hiding the object before the object had a chance to respond to the input. Luckily, I found a way around that. As you can see, when I click on the object, I have an on-pointer exit that I'm using instead. So what this allows me to do is when the mouse is on the menu itself, it's fine, and when it's on the object, it's fine as well. But the moment you move off that, you'll note it disappears. And so that gives us a easy way to not have to handle clicking that isn't a part of that UI. And so now we can say use, and you can see our console has a use item, and everything's great. It's actually pretty straightforward. This was one of the easier fixes I had to put in place recently. And now that we've got that, it shouldn't be too hard to finish tying ourselves into the rest of the system that we are using. So, for example, tying it into equipping items that are equipable, using items that have use cases attached to them. So the big thing I want to try today is getting the consumable item taken care of, specifically that health potion we started in on. We kind of started making it and then kind of, oh, bug, and that was the rest of the hour, unfortunately, and I had to run off after that. Today we have a lot more time than an hour, though, so I want to see just how much we can crunch in. Question is, where'd I put it? Consumable. Also, you may notice this object grid 3D. I'd been playing with a bunch of gridded terrain systems for a while, and I finally found one that suits my needs that I like. I still have to learn all the ins and outs of using it. You'll note that sometimes it likes to put things in funny places. But that said, once everything's in place, it shouldn't be too bad to have it all aligned and part of the system. And you can also see that I kind of went so far as to extend the terrain a bit. I haven't extended the grid yet. The grid is going to be something that's going to take a bit of work to tie into the system, and I can't help but note that am I dropping frames? No, maybe. My webcam is having a little trouble. Or maybe OBS is having some trouble. I don't know. I looked over at my preview and my face is just like frozen in this crazy stare for a while. Hopefully that won't kick down to you guys. I hope it was just on my end. Anyway, so back to what we were poking at initially. So we've got our effects, we've got the onValidate. We need to make sure that the consumable item gets called if we try and use it. And actually, let's close all this extra crud that I've got floating around, because I was looking at a bunch of other things. So your inventory item UI has the functions here, and we don't really do anything inside these yet. We need to, but we don't. So let's see here. When we say on use equip, so we need to go down to the item, probably. Which means that the item needs inventory item. We need some functionality here. And we're probably just going to pass through to this. Now, this is going to be virtual, and I'm not really going to care a ton about it. For the most part, it's just going to be this empty virtual function. And we'll just have people overwrite it as need be. So instead of just saying use item, we actually will grab our item reference and say on use or equip. And our consumable will be the one who's doing the hard work here, I would assume. So the consumable, let's see, let's get some separators here. Because remember, I put my public stuff at the top, and then my Unity beneath that, and then helpers go under that. So for me, and the reason I guess for the public stuff being at the top, if I want to look at the interface of an object, I don't care about what Unity's doing, I don't care about what the helper functions are doing, I just want to see what functions I can call and what they look like. That's why you have the public variables at the top and then the public functions immediately underneath it. And I do tend to also keep my private variables near the top, but that's kind of a personal thing, not industry standard. So let's see here. We've got our function, and we are going to do an override. Hey, Dragon Sticks. I am glad you are able to join me as well. It definitely is nice to have repeat customers, for the lack of better words. Repeat viewers. There we go. You guys aren't customers. I'm not selling you anything. Not yet. I'm not selling you games yet. On use equip. So I can't help but feel like I need to pass the character through here so that we can affect the character whose inventory this is a part of. On use equip. So the only... So the question is, how do I pass through the game object that is the player to that piece? Let's see here. I'm going to poke at this again just to see what I have information on. So, okay, I've got the inventory itself, I've got the items, and the items have a function. So that I can get and set inventory positions. They don't even know the player character exists, for the most part. Let's see here. If I click on this and I hit use, what information can I encode into this to make sure that the information makes it all the way through? Character inventory. Let's just look at like the first health potion that's right here. We have the item UI, which has the context menu information. How do we pass this through? Because that's kind of the most difficult part sometimes, is just getting things tied in without having references flying everywhere, right? It's really easy to make this messy and to get away with it, but then have that come back and bite us in the ass later. So I'd really rather not do that. Does the character inventory have... No. The character inventory... This is, like... I gotta say, I am impressed with my ability to avoid putting information in here that is unnecessary. At the same time, I almost kind of wish I had a little more information. Do the backpack slots have... Yeah, they have the inventory slot UI, and the slot is the thing that has the functions to get set. Let's see here. So what I think I'm going to do is we need an inventory slot to know its owner. Also, do I need this? No, I don't think I do. So this possible cleanup later, I'm just going to rip this out right now. No need for that extra set of references to be here. Ooh, and let's close that down. Player character, owning character. So in the same place we say set inventory function, we also need to pass along the owner. Otherwise we have no way at all to go back. We need to have that tie-in somewhere. Someone has to own this. Luckily, we're inside the player characters, so we can just use this. And if you have to set things using this variables in other classes, it tends to mean that your architecture looks right. If you're essentially passing a variable or calling a function and saying, hey, set your variable to me, that tends to be pretty good control. So we're setting our own owning character. Fantastic. We have this information now here. The items, let's see here. We have the reference to the item, but I don't see a reference to the item UI, which is a little unfortunate. And I don't think the inventory item has, yeah, it doesn't have access to that either. So we still don't have a way to pass this information through. So we could put the reference inside the item. That's always a little iffy, I suppose, is the word. Inventory item UI. Let's see here. Look at this again a little bit more, see what else I've got to work with here. Also, I don't need terrain open. I really don't need the terrain open. Okay, so the character inventory itself doesn't have anything I can use. The destroy me script is supposed to be a tiny little thing. So I don't really want to add information to that. The problem is I don't really have anyone else, as far as I can tell. Oh, wait. Okay, yeah, I don't have anyone else who seems to be a good owner of this information. I mean, the only other thing is the inventory item itself in the slot. Maybe that having its owner would not be a bad idea. Yeah, let's try that. And I'm a little hesitant to do this. I really do wish I had some way to reference things instead of storing this information. Because say, for example, I pass the item from one character to another. I want to be sure that not only am I passing it to a person, but that all the variables I set get reset correctly. Which is why I'm kind of thinking the item UI might be the place to do this, and not anywhere else. So let's try that. So we're going to remove this from here, and we're going to go through and remove that from there. And when I say create item UI, there's the item. Okay. Where's that for each inventory item? For each slot on party navigation. Okay, so this is it. This is where I am creating these things. So here's the inventory. Okay, here we go. Inventory item UI. And once again, look at that. Beautiful this control. Nice and easy. Definitely means that that pointer will never be null whenever it gets set. At least not unless something silly goes on, like I destroy the game object early, or I kill the character while the inventory screen's open. There are some edge cases we'll have to think about. But you know what? For now, I do not care. Okay, so the inventory item now has that information, the item UI. So what does that mean? We can now pass that through here. Item ref. Oh, whoops. Here's our use target. For now, I'm just going to assume that every time you use an item, that you're going to be using it on the local character, but eventually we may switch that up to say, I want to use the item on someone else. And that will allow us to, like, I'm going to hand you a potion, or I'm going to pour this down your throat because you're dying, or those kinds of things. So we say, and this is the interesting part, the use target current health. Let's see. Can we just do, yeah, let's just call a deal damage with a negative on it. Until this becomes a really bad idea, I really don't mind it. Because I don't think I have like a heal or restore. Yeah, I don't have a restore, so dealing negative damage is kind of my way right now of handling this. Eventually, I'm going to switch that, because when I say deal damage, he's going to make the ouch noise, and when you drink a health potion, that'd be a little counterintuitive. Let's see. So we're going to roll dice based on the, what? The effect strength. Actually, oh, we need to think about this too. We need to consider the flags that are currently in. So we say if the effects contains, and I need to put this in brackets, if it contains the consumable effect, whoops, consumable effect of restoring health, then we are going to use let's think about this, because there's gotta be we could say for each flag and then walk through the flags. Essentially for each flag that's on, sorry. Didn't I write something for this? Get flag count, get flag. Flags in enum. Yeah, get flag in enum. So here are our flags, the effects, which I need to convert to a unsigned integer. And it is of type consumable effect. And now I can just for each this. And this returns what? Uint flags, I think. Okay. First off, we turn the active flag into the effect. Once we have the effect, then it's pretty easy for us to handle whatever the heck it is. There we go. I just want to make sure I have an index so I can get the correct effect strength out. So for example, we can just switch off of E. And if we have a restore health, for example, actually let's do these in order of the actual enum, just so we're not losing our minds. So if we want to restore energy, then we say, here's our use target, and we are going to how do I handle energy loss here? Get defense, get damage, spend energy. Was that? Yes. Okay, cool. We're going to spend a negative amount of energy equal to the strength. So it's effect, strength, and then our effect index. Problem solved. So there's one. Let's get the other one in here. If it's restore health, then we are going to deal... I like how these are like negatives of things. We're going to spend a negative amount of energy. We are going to deal a negative amount of damage. Here's our effect index that we use to roll the dice with, and then we break. And just because I can, I'm going to log an error just in case there's an effect that isn't handled here. Actually, you know what? No, I'm not. Forget that. So, use on equip, great. It's a consumable item now. That's the only piece of information that we have to handle at this point. We need to destroy ourself and all the pieces of information attached to this so that we can't continue to access it. So, let's see here. How do we do this? We need to pass along not just the player character, but also any possible inventory UI attached to it. So, essentially this pointer to the item UI. There we go. Save that in there and put this here. Sweet. And note how adding, in this event-based system, adding new arguments is pretty much as simple as finding the owner of the function call and just adding this pointers or adding more information to the function call. This is great because we're not storing tons of extra data. It keeps the memory size from ballooning and only causes tiny little spikes each time the event happens, but it's not that overwhelming memory usage that you'll see some games do these days where they just decide, I'm going to eat all 6 to 8 gigs of your RAM, and you don't get them back. At least not until you're done playing. Like Chrome does that, and it's not even a game. That's terrifying whenever Chrome decides, like, ooh, I'll take this memory, thank you. I knew you got more for me. It's sad but true. Alright. So how do we remove this thing? Item UI dot. Obviously, calling destroy on ourself is the easiest thing. Hey, Chakma. If I call destroy on my game object, whoops, there isn't a game object. Gotta remember that. So I can destroy the item object itself. Great, easy, whatever. The hard part here is erasing all of our references going upwards. So I'm gonna add a new function, or new public function here. And we're just gonna call it remove item from inventory. And we'll need to figure out a way to tie this all in, but this, I think, is going to be the way that I use to say, okay, by the way, item UI, remove myself from inventory. Remove this item, whatever it happens to be. Because we have the item reference, right? We have the owning character. Let's see here. I want some way to, like, delete item. Oh, character is not the right class, though. I think player character is actually where I want to be for this. Get skills. Drop item, discard item. Let's think about this. Because we do have the set inventory slot. Is anyone even using that? Okay, someone is. Good. Yeah, I mean that's the most painful thing about memory hogs like that is they're not even making great use of the memory usually. It's just that everybody has decided that they want their little bits and pieces, and that causes everything to kind of get picked away at. And so they say, well, you know, we wanted 4 gigs set aside initially, but then we decided we needed 4 gigs for this. So we set aside another gig for something else, but then something else wanted that gig, so now we've set aside another gig, but we had to pair those 2 singles together for the earlier process, so now we need a new 2 gig spot just for allocations. But, you know, and before long it's ballooned way out of control. And that happens far more often than I'd like to admit. I'm going to crack open this actual setup once more, just to make sure my hierarchy is how I think it should look. Yeah, okay, so here's the item UI. So I'm actually going to back up one and grab the slot and say, by the way, player, you need to throw this out. Chalkman's asking, can I create memory leaks in C#? Oh, yeah. There are ways to generate objects where you can create, say you create a tree of references. As long as one of those references is still valid and can access any of the other references, because the others are all attached to each other as well, you can essentially generate it's not obviously the same thing as a C++ memory leak. A C++ memory leak you literally cannot come back from. The moment you allocate that memory and then forget that pointer, you're done. That's it. Versus, at least until you like write your own memory manager. Versus when you say in C#, create something new and then hang on to a reference of it. Or if you create references inside of lambdas and things, that's another easy way to do it. Having lambdas that point to each other or have references or allocate memory is always kind of a dangerous thing, depending on how well or poorly you regulate it. It's possible, it's just a lot more difficult. It's pretty much nearly impossible. You really have to almost work at it. If you pull it off, I would honestly be impressed, because it just, to forget about a reference and have it just sit there and soak up memory like that is difficult. Usually it's like a forgotten class has some variable that nobody uses, but you set it because you had some legacy functionality that needed it, and suddenly, oh look, it's holding on to a variable. That variable is something that got allocated on the stack. Right. I came in here to... Oh, I know what I was looking at. I came in here to say transform parent get component. This is our inventory slot UI. Okay, we've got the slot, and it really doesn't want to play nice. Inventory slot UI. There we go. So the slot UI has some information that the rest of this does not. Specifically, set. We're going to steal its set inventory function. Are we actually? Is that a good way to do that? I want to make sure I'm not like polluting anything silly. Let's do it this way. Because I don't like using somebody else's function or function pointer as this is. You'll note this is an action with inputs. So let's actually not do that. Let's see. When I set null to a position, do I have my own position though? Okay, get slot index. Okay, got it. So this will discard the item from the player. So now the player has an easy way to drop things, essentially. So we say slot UI, discard the item. Or I'll call it remove item. Just because he's not dropping it on the ground, so to speak. That's what I think of when I say discard. I want to make sure that if I discard something, that maybe the item ends up on the floor tile so that they can pick it up again later. But remove is a little more final. So, okay, we've got the item out of his inventory, right? Yeah, we passed null into that index. Great. So the inventory item is now gone. We need to get rid of the item UI now, because that's the other piece that you'll note still has this item reference. If we null that item reference, the item goes away, but it's easier for us to actually just nuke the whole thing. So we're actually going to say destroy ourself. And I think that should remove the item from the inventory entirely. If we wanted to be like incredibly certain, we could also say item ref is null. But I don't care to go that far. So weapon item, no, consumable item. Okay, so let's just follow this train for a moment. I don't think that needs to be destroyed out of hand. We say remove item from inventory. That grabs the slot, tells the slot remove the item from the character, and then destroy yourself so that there's no more inventory log. I think that's everything. I think we took care of it all. Oh, and let's just, since we have discard item right here, just do this. So we can just throw things away too. Just chuck it out of the inventory. What's this? Don't care. Don't want it. So, okay, first off, let's throw away a knife. Knife is still here. Oh, okay. We're missing something. Knife is there. The class that handled the knife's movement is gone. So, oh, we got rid of the behavior. We got rid of the behavior, not the object itself. We need to get rid of everything. Anything that might still have a reference, it just has to go. There we go. I can't click on it. I think the slot should report itself as empty now. I'm pretty sure it does. Slot 0, 1, 2. So backpack slot 2 is empty. I'm pretty sure it's just dead empty. That's it. There's nothing else. Let's take some damage and try drinking a potion. Everybody fights. Alright, some people are taking damage. Well, no, the bad guys are taking damage. Okay, there we go. Cleric takes damage. I kind of want the warrior to take damage. I didn't realize that the cleric actually didn't have items in their inventory. It's okay, because I can just, like, stuff things into their inventory via the editor. But, yes, you hear dog feet. Doggy, doggy, dog feet. I am taking care of a friend's dog while she is off playing RPGs. And that, of course, has meant that you will hear doggy feet from time to time. Hey, okay, warrior's killing things. Okay, there we go. Warrior took damage. Sweet. That is exactly what I wanted. Cool. Okay. Really? You guys can hear all that? I'm kind of impressed. Granted, I have a nice microphone, so it can sit, actually, it sits all the way back next to my computer monitor. It's like way pressed back. So I'm glad you guys can hear so well. You also get to hear all the lovely things going on in my neighborhood. I know Day 9 would often, hey, there we go. Okay, that didn't heal him for much, but it healed him, so that's helpful. Let's just grab our cleric, stuff something into its inventory. It's an item prefab called a health potion, and we'll just dump it in your dump a couple in your inventory. Hey, look. I like the magic of just like, oh look, magical things are now in your inventory. Sweet. What? Wait a minute. Okay, what's the cleric's max health here? Because I'm pretty sure we're going over max health. I'm gonna dump a ton of health potions and just chug them and see if this is doing what I think it's doing. Yeah, it is. Oh my god, we're gonna have the most invincible cleric ever. We need to fix this. Mostly because she has a current health of 50 and her max is 16. Obviously... excuse me. Obviously something needs to be handled here. Player character. When you get dealt damage... Okay, here's our issue. Clearly we've done this with spend energy already, but we haven't done it with deal damage. So, 0 and max health. There we go. I was curious if that was the case. Turns out it was. Oops. Okay, there we go. But we're all taken care of now, so they should no longer go over max when they drink these things. Oh, and if you're dead, you shouldn't be able to get dealt damage. So if your current health is already less than or equal to 0, for now I'm just gonna skip the rest of this. Same with no, you're dead. You can't you can't. Same with spend energy. If your current health is less than or equal to 0, guess what? You're still dead and your energy is still 0. Too bad. There we go. Always good to put those little if statements in just in case. Let's see here. Where's the base spend energy call? Oh, this is the base spend energy call. Okay, who's overriding it? Okay, cool. iWombo is asking, what does send message do? Send message is an interesting tool. Something that Unity makes very, very good use of. It's a Unity-specific function, and what it does is, when you say send message, it calls a function of the given name on all the components attached to a game object. So, for example, let's see here. If I were to call, let's see, that's actually not a good example. Sure, why not? So if you call send message on the party UI, and I sent, for example, I don't know, destroy self or some other message, each of these components inside is going to get sent the message. So it's going to call the function if the function exists. At which point, it's kind of a reflection-free function call process. It's really, really interesting. But it also has its downsides in that it spams every component on an object. I have to use these terms right, otherwise this is going to get really confusing really fast. But yes, that's essentially what it does, is it allows you to call functions in other objects without needing to know their interface. It's a little weird, but not the worst thing I've ever run into. I also can't help but notice, I'm curious if there's a difference between objects marked in blue where you have the prefab connection still. And these objects, if these clones are copies still, or if they're considered the same object, I have a bad feeling if I made a change to one of these that it wouldn't get reflected in all the rest. Events are nice. There are definitely times when not knowing the interface is a really good thing, and calling send message is a great way to handle stuff. For example, say you're making a board game, and in your board game you say, okay, the player has just taken their turn. They moved this piece from here to here. What you then do is you say, okay, I'm going to send out a message so that all the other pieces on the board can react accordingly. So for that, send message is a great thing. You say, send message to everybody, and I'm going to call on player move. And it's nice because if you have a bunch of different components that all have different interfaces, even if they have different interfaces, that one function will still get called on all of the objects. So it's a nice way of doing it, though. It has its uses. Events also have their own usage. The downside with events is you have to explicitly register. So it really depends on how you want to do it. If you don't mind not explicitly registering things, fine. It doesn't really matter a ton. Also, I can't help but note that even though that is a tile. There is a tile there, right? It would be silly if the reason that was dark is that there was no tile. I think there is a tile. Yeah, there are tiles there, of course. God, that's pissing me off. Constant dark tiles. I have no idea how or why that's going on. Yeah, I don't know. That is bizarre. I just can't think of any reason why that would be a thing. Oh well. Yeah. Back to... Okay, so we've got items in inventories handled. So I'm going to take the moment to... Let's clear all this out for a moment and actually commit what we have. Random folder I deleted. Great. Let's get rid of that. Oh my god. There's a lot of stuff in this object grid. But it is all worth it because it is amazing. It has a few downsides I've been able to find so far. But it's not terrible. And that's saying something. Like, a lot of stuff in the Unity asset store, especially script-based assets, are always a little iffy for me. I'm never quite sure what I'm going to get because you can't look, or, like, there's no sample code. So you have no idea if this is, like, coded well or terribly, or if it has all the functions you want, or if the interface makes sense. Like, people post videos of their own tools, but they're terrible videos, and this is no exception, unfortunately. So, feature can now use items from inventory. And granted, if you hit use right now on items that don't have, if they're not consumable, it won't do anything. Uh-oh, computer. No, don't do this to me. Okay, good. I've been having trouble lately with my system. It's been freezing, I won't say arbitrarily on me, but it does freeze on occasion, and suddenly everything just cuts out. And when I restart my computer, it says, no, there's no hard drive connected. What are you talking about? Makes me think that my my motherboard is on the fritz, unfortunately. Motherboard or hard drive. I really actually hope it's motherboard, because that's easy to replace versus hard disk and the contents on it. Well, let's just say there's a good reason I'm committing these to a cloud-based system. Because if anything terrible happens, all these hours of work will still be here. If you don't back up your own personal projects and it disappears, literally, that is like the worst thing ever. And you have no one to blame but yourself for it, usually. You just, it's one of those difficult things to sometimes get yourself to do, but it is so worth it. I've already lost a hard disk a long time ago. I got an SSD really early when SSDs were like max size 128 gigs. And because the tech was so new, you end up with a lot of bugs in the system. And mine died. And I lost a lot of work. It really, really just, that was a lot of work that disappeared from me. So always back up your stuff. Chakma says he's using a OneDrive folder. That's great. OneDrive is, I gotta say, with all the stuff going on in Windows, OneDrive is a pretty friggin' awesome feature, and I've been really happy with the little stuff I've used it for. It seems pretty well thought out. They clearly thought about just making this easy to use. Yes, it's not SVN. It doesn't have history, so to speak, at least not in the same way that SVN records things, but it still is pretty friggin' awesome. So let's not keep you guys staring at my update finished SVN page. Let's actually get back to this. So the whole point of getting inventory items usable in the first place was so that we could then make them usable in combat. Now, the hard part about combat, or using an item in combat, is that we need a new interface. We need a new something to control it. Because right now, if I have a player character who returns, let's see here, combat actions dot item, the item button will appear. That's pretty simple, right? This is the easiest thing because it's already coded and it's already complete. I don't care about this part so much. It's more the, I take a step forwards, okay, here's the item button, but what does this item button bring up? That's the thing that I want to figure out. How is my interface for this going to be as easy to use as possible without breaking the flow of combat? So let's see. Why does the terrain, please stop opening? Just stop. Stop, terrain. Don't do it. Alright, let's see. How do we get this in here? So first off, we have to find our UI. So here's our combat UI. Whoop. And which way is forwards? Not this way. Okay. Let's zoom way the heck out and center it in on our combat UI a little. So this is what it looks like when you have a full board. So we really don't have a ton of space to make use of right now, unless we shove the characters outwards from the center. I'm not really a huge fan of that. Granted, I guess I could put all the characters at the top, and then all the UI at the bottom, maybe. That would be one way to handle it. The reason I like this 2x2 setup is that the 2x2 that's going on here is, how do I say it? It kind of gives a sense of formation, right? People in the front, people in the back. And I want the people in the back to be not quite as easily accessible as the rest. You can hear little puppy noises. I mean, if you guys could hear the car alarm, you could definitely hear the puppy noises. She's not terribly happy about being stuck in her crate, but unfortunately, she makes messes. Now my house is just making weird noises. Okay, where do we add things? Well, we kind of have this center space, right? We can use the center space, or we could try and bring up inventory itself. So we could actually take the, where is it? We could, yeah, where's my inventory UI? Character. So I could drop an inventory on top and say, what would you like to use? Right? Yeah, seriously, the dog picking the lock on the crate. I'd be impressed. I would be very impressed. No opposable thumbs and yet still able to pick a lock, especially a lock that isn't locked. I'd be amazed. So I could just bring up the inventory, and if I could lock it down to ensure that you can't move items around, that would be one way to do it. That'd be the easiest way to do it, I should say. Because then you could still click on things and you could still close the inventory. The hard part is when you click on an item and say use. No, but I'm going to need this anyway, aren't I? When you say use and picking a target. And I especially, the other reason I want to keep this center area clear right here is I want to actually have a list of what is attacking you show up. So I'm actually going to fill this with a little bit more UI just so that it's obvious that this space is in use. I can't fit anything else here. I won't try and convince myself to in the future because there's just literally nothing that should go there. So let's see, we'll make this 128. I love me some powers of 2, so you guys will have to put up with a lot of that throughout this this game process. Yeah, can I shift the action choices out a little? Let's see, I want the attack, item, dodge, and rest buttons. And let's see if we can push these out. That actually looks a bit better. I actually like that. Spell, equip, run, and hide. Pop. That actually looks pretty nice. I'll leave it like that for now. Let's apply our changes and dump that for now because I don't think we're going to find more space in that UI. Not without covering up more of the screen. And that's kind of the last thing I want to do, right? If you look at this thing, it's already pretty huge. I honestly kind of want to compress this if possible. Let's see. Maybe I can do a little compression right now just while I'm thinking about it. Specifically this action background. If we can drop the height to like 128, I'd be happy, especially if I could shift it further towards the bottom of the screen. I think it would do us really well to have that sitting lower. Granted, that does mean that this is not called image, this is the target window. And we're just going to apply changes from there. Also, the target window is huge now, so let's yeah, let's see. Maybe this will do. We take attack, we bring it down a couple pixels just to... Oop, that's not down. That's not down at all. Let's see, I brought that down 3. I don't need to be too well within it, right? Where's that attack button? You're 95 normally, so 97, and then dodge can go up 1, I suppose, so that'd be 154, and rest can go up 2. Like, you can tell, I'm moving these things very, very minute amounts right now. Just little tweaks to kind of bring them back into that window space to make sure that they don't spill out. So this becomes... Oop, that's height. That is the wrong one. Okay, so 2 down, 1 down, run goes up 1, and hide goes up 2. There we go. Not a ton, but it's just enough to kind of crunch things back to where I think they should go. Also, let's bring this header down. Let's see here. 40, 55, 65 might be a bit much. It looks like a bit much. 62, 64. Hey, powers of 2 again. No, it's too much. Okay, cool. That looks like some pretty good UI right there. I am pleased. And I'm going to turn the whole thing to pixel perfect because I keep seeing some like funny, silly spots on it, and I want to make sure that it looks clean. Okay. This is actually a little large. 40, let's see, can I 32? Yes. Is that too small? What, I said it was 40 normally? Oh no, it's 34 normally. So that might be pushing it, honestly. We'll see. We'll see. I don't like making text sizes way too small, if only because then things just become unreadable. Let's try this for now. Mental is asking, why don't I use fit components? They're a little difficult sometimes to handle. This should be a fit component, honestly, this text. That should make it that much easier to handle. Because then I can do stuff like that, and it doesn't look bad at all. Ooh, also, I'm noticing an issue with the look. Versus, oh, okay. Note how this is starting to get cut off. You can actually see the hard line right here. Do I have another... That's kind of the same, though. That's a little... I don't want something with so much pomp and circumstance, though. It does seem a little overkill. Just a little. Let's... I have an idea. Inside this document that I'm using, which I need to make sure I do this right. Desktop, hematite... That's just working name. Don't know why. Just kind of went with it. From scratch, this is a thing. I think this is the right one. Yeah, honestly, Mental, I think you've got the right way about it. I'm just not used to the UI in Unity stuff yet, and I do need to poke at it and kind of get it fixed. Whoop. Oh, is it not in here? I thought... Oh, I thought one of these had the paper thing without the background on it. But it looks like the only thing I have is this example light, which doesn't really, it's not entirely what I think I want, so I'm actually going to close that. Shoot. Just look at the other one. Oh, Necessary Evil is a fantastic RPG I got a while back. Think of it this way. Aliens have taken over the world. The superheroes all went to fight and got the snot kicked out of them. And the only people left who have a chance of kind of saving or undoing Earth's takeover by the aliens are now the bad guys who have to gang up on the on all the good guys. or not the good guys, sorry. They have to gang up to save the world so that they can then own it. It's an interesting prospect that I absolutely loved, enough that I bought the game and then proceeded to just never really played it, I guess. Okay, so this, I think this is just going to have to be somewhat oversized, and I'm going to have to, like, get over it. I still made things smaller, I still brought this down in size, and brought it closer to the bottom of the screen, so I'm kind of happy with that. I'm trying to free up as much screen space as I can, because I honestly would not like a ton of my screen space to be eaten up during things like fights with UI. I want to remove as much of that UI as possible. And why is something complaining? Or what is this complaining about? Oh, because there's combat UI up front and it doesn't have anything attached to it. Cool. Attack, item, dodge, rest. So the 4 basics are almost in. We actually have to just do a little more work to take care of them. So yeah, let's figure out how this item thing is going to go. Specifically, let's see. Yes, thank you, reload everything. First off, I guess when you click the button, I should do something, right? I think there's just nothing tied to that right now, so let's do that first. The kind of obvious steps, and once we get the obvious stuff out of the way, we can handle everything else. Item button, yeah, item button has nothing. Okay, so combat UI needs to go there. And when we say choose, let's see, attack, dodge, rest, it looks like I'm putting these in alpha order, and that would make sense. Choose item action. This is going to be a little difficult because item actions are they're very context sensitive, right? Some items you'll click on and you'll say use. Others you'll click on and when you go to say, you know, use, we'll need to pick a target who is a player or pick a target who is an enemy. So we kind of need to make sure that that happens. Also, we need to make sure we advance the character choice, as always. Let's see, how do we do this in terms of bringing up that UI? We have the player character, right? We have this choice owner. That's a pretty simple part. So we say choice owner dot what? Open inventory. And we might have to just slap some modifiers in here. Whoops. Let's apply this and then get rid of it because it doesn't really need to change, so to speak. So you say item. Did I not set that? I could have sworn I set that. Item. Oh, I didn't set the function. Combat UI, choose item action. Sweet. Alright, item. There we go. Here's our UI. Now you'll note it automatically moved on to the next character. That's not good. Let's see. Let's not advance the character choice first. Also, when we say open inventory, I'm just going to put... I can't put the Boolean there. What am I talking about? Go to definition. Let's see. We say open inventory. Equipable. Can shift, can equip, I guess, would be one part. And when we open inventory here, we'll want to say, no, you can't equip things. And we need to modify our party UI really quickly. Because remember, this portrait actually has an on-click somewhere. There it is. Here's our open inventory. And yes, you can modify things. Let's just set this for everybody so that we don't forget it, because that'd be kind of silly. Yeah, that car alarm again. I don't know why car alarms go off so often around here. It's not like it's a bad neighborhood. I'm actually in a really nice neighborhood. And I have to do these one at a time. Okay, Unity, fine. I'll play it your way. That's there. That is there. There's our open inventory. That is there. Cool. Yeah, that's what the burglars want me to think. Yeah, no, really, it's actually a nice area. I'd be amazed if cars got too terribly stolen around here. Now, granted, Santa Clara kind of does tend to have some pretty crazy vehicle theft rates. I don't know. Granted, I have a vehicle that I keep nothing in because the top of it is literally like pleather. So if you want it into the car, you just take a knife to it. So I don't even bother to keep nice things in my vehicle. Okay, so if we test this out, we can click here, we can move things around. Great. I just realized I added the variable and then didn't do anything with it. Can equip needs to get passed down to these. And this, let's see here. Where do I set that function, actually? It would be here. Oh, okay. I don't need to pass that through. Cool. I don't mind passing around less information. If you can equip, then set it to this. Otherwise, set inventory function to a lambda that does nothing. Oh, it can't just be lambda. It has to take inventory item I and I think it's int IDX. I don't really care, honestly, so I don't think I'm going to even reference them. Int is a keyword. Yes, it is. Do I just A and B? Okay, cool. There we go. Empty lambdas. Best. Is that the best way to handle this? No, that's actually the hackiest way to handle this. Because this allows me to shift things around. And then I close it and go into combat and say item. And this is happening in the inventory still. So I need to remove that on drag, or that draggable part of the component. How do I do this? Let's not do that here, firstly. I just don't want to handle that. At least not there. Item UI. Let's do this. Yeah. And then we just say, well, if you on begin drag, if it's not draggable, just stop. Just don't do it. Just no. Is there some way to use the event so that it doesn't pass on as well? I mean, that would be the best way to do it, right? We kind of jump in and we say, if it's not draggable, not only do we return, but we burn the event so it stops passing through. Data.use. I think that'll do it. King Recycle asking, is there any Unity assets I love and use? Unity assets, not really. I find that the engine itself is kind of the best part of it, and that the assets they've generated so far have not been in a style or anything of my liking, so I don't really bother with it much. I forgot to set the variable. Slot UI dot draggable. Let's see. Oh, that's the slot, not the actual item. So I do need to pass it through. Surprise, surprise. Can equip. And then we say item UI component dot draggable is there we go. I don't like having variables by the same name. That just gets incredibly unhelpful. So we can still use them there. I step in, I say item, and I can still do this here. Interesting. Interesting. Maybe I just have to say if return on all of them. That might just be the way to do it. So we just completely ignore drag events. I just don't care. Come on, Unity. There we go. Item. Nope, can't drag things. Now I am getting array out of bounds exceptions for some reason. Who is throwing that? Oh, the set inventory slot still wants to get called? Really? Who's calling that? Okay, it's getting called from here. And then that gets called when I remove an item or when I drop. But if I can't drag, it shouldn't be doing the on drop events either. Or so I would think, right? I guess it's still triggering the start on the drag and the end on the drag, specifically the end being the part that matters. So it is trying to do that switch. Oh, I know what I can do to fix this. Kind of the silly, obvious thing, but, actually, is it obvious? It actually is not. I mean, I guess the best way I could handle this is just turning off the on-drop component as well. I was kind of hoping that turning off the drag component would be the end of it. I wonder... if on begin data.use data.draw, is there any kind of like dragging? Is a drag operation currently use drag threshold? Should have thrown no. What else do we got in here? Reset. Reset the event to the default state. That'd be kind of hilarious. That also might be terrible. Resetting something in the engine, always a little iffy about something like that. Dragging delta. Let's just try this. See if this helps. I don't think it will, but just in case. In case I find that that magic bullet, then I will happily... Yeah, didn't think so. That's fine. Just want to be sure. So, I have to also tell the slots that they can't be changed. I think I have a better way to do this. If set inventory function is null. There. That's a pretty easy fix. The player character now simply needs to say, well, if you can equip things, then we need to run this for each loop. Otherwise, don't worry about it. There we go. No more bugs. But you can still click on things and use them. But you have a trouble doing the remove item call. Oh, because remove item relies on that function existing. So I can't actually... man, it almost makes me think I need a different interface for this. That I can't just bring up the inventory UI and say, just do it here. Oh, okay. King Recycle's asking assets on the store. Well, I'm really enjoying the use of the tile editor right now. So just to show you guys what I'm talking about here, I've got, it's called Object Grid 3D. Woo. And what it essentially does is it allows you to take objects and turn them into prefabs that you can use as tiles. So for example, right now I've got a tree, but I could also go so far as to say, let's switch from trees back to my default category, which is just terrain. And I want to slap some more terrain down. Well, it's not that hard because I just, if I run a couple settings, well, actually I don't, I'm going to put something up here. Say I want to expand this slightly. So let's put, okay, that goes there, that goes there, that. Hey, look at that, right? I just expanded this by quite a bit. And it wasn't hard. Right? Like, this is pretty friggin' awesome and powerful without being too much to handle. Without kind of overdoing it, because it's really easy to overdo tools like this. And this one has a little bit of overproduction, but it's not the end of the world because they still keep most everything controlled. So yeah, I like this one quite a bit. Other ones I like... Looks like my camera's stuck again. Hello, camera. I think there's a bug with OBS. There's some other stuff. I don't remember it. Just bring up my asset store would be one way to do this. Yeah, the problem is most of the stuff I do, I tend to make a change, or I'll get an editor extension and then I'll mess with the code to high heck, because I'm not a huge fan of just using things as is. So you'll actually not ever really see me use something that doesn't have source code, because I just love to be able to muck around with the source code and control that much of the scene. Anyway, so yeah, that's the terrain stuff. Let's see. Let us figure this out. So, okay, I can't use this because this is not a kosher way to handle this. It doesn't fly well. That's fine. I think I'm not going to be able to use this inventory in general. As much as I really, really want to, I don't think it's going to be the way to do it. I think what I'm going to have to do is come up with a new UI, as much as I hate to say it. And the new UI is going to have to handle it separately. So I'm going to just quickly pull all these components that I just installed. Because that is not going to work, nor is this. So let's just get rid of that. The upside is I won't have all this kind of one-off code floating around, which is nice. Everything in here will be its single use, and then you don't really have to do anything too crazy to get stuff going. I'm not building a UI that has this like weird branching path going on. It's just one clean straight shot. We do have to fix our party UI again, unfortunately. Back to open inventory for all of you. I maybe shouldn't do this on everybody until I've got all the code figured out, because otherwise I have to do shit like this repeatedly. Where is it? Open inventory. Sweet. Okay, fixed all that. Choice owner is assigned, but its value is never used. Yeah, it's because I haven't figured out how to do this yet. But thank you, Unity. I definitely... I needed to know that. Combat UI. Come here. There's got to be something we can do. Did I just drag that to my Twitch window? Whoops. I didn't know you could drag Unity components to your Twitch window. You can't. It was just, I accidentally dragged it off my monitor and my Twitch window is on my left, so oops. Poor combat UI. Okay, it just looked like it was touching the bottom of the screen, and I'd rather it not be doing that. So, okay, we've got the action background. Let's generate a new background, a new object to handle. This is going to be our inventory. Let's just go with standard. And you are 400, so you will also be 400. And just fill the screen with it would be one way to handle this. The other way is just to bring this sucker up and... Let's see. Can I just hide everything on the action background? I could do that. I could grab the action choices, turn them off, and then turn the target off as well. But I think I just want to do this. This would be easier. Conserve memory. We don't do that around here. We do it to some degree, actually, but... we'll call it the inventory picker. And it'll be pretty simple. There's probably just going to be a drop-down list inside here. That's not the kind of drop-down list I wanted. I keep thinking it has a different kind of drop-down list. I mean, I guess I could do a list of buttons. Input field, scroll view. You know, this might serve our purposes. It might actually serve our purposes out here. Cool. let's try this. Inventory picker, whose way there we go. I don't think I want this to be horizontally controlled, just vertically. I'm kind of amazed that hasn't disappeared yet. Whatever. Inertia, don't care. Vertical, horizontal scroll bar. Auto hide. Okay. Background. Let's see if we can set our background to our usual one. I would be very happy if that was the case. That's not our usual one. That's the usual one. And I don't understand why it has to be see-through. I really don't. Okay. It's a start. It definitely is a start. I guess I really don't understand how these things work. That's the crazy thing. Okay, we've got viewport. Should viewport include... Okay, viewport doesn't include. You can actually see the viewport has its own information here. Okay, great. I guess the next thing is to have some button or some list of buttons, something that you can click on to say, here's an item. And that's the piece of content that really needs to get interesting. Okay, that's the content that needs to get generated kind of on the fly. We need to pass it in a list of things and say, here's all the items that you can use right now. Because if you don't have any items, well, there should be an item button. Excuse me. Excuse me. Yeah, let's do that. Player character. Attack, dodge, anyone can do these. Attack, dodge, and rest. We then say if common actions, or sorry, not if common actions, if any of your inventory slots contain an item that can be used. For now, I'm just going to say that is consumables. So for each inventory item in the inventory slots, if the item is a consumable item, then we say common actions. Okay, it'll also include items. And that's what we return. We'll call these available actions. Better term. Okay, cool. So now that will only appear for people with something in their inventory. That's a good kind of next step. Also, let's just toss a break statement in here because no need, right? No need to go through everything if your third item is in there. What else? What else? We need to generate the buttons, and we also need to say, yeah, that's really all there is to it. So let's see. How do we want to show the item? We probably want to go tiny icon text, and let you mouse over and do the tooltip stuff. That's probably how we want to do it. Trying to think of a better way to handle it, but really that's the best way I can think of. let's get us some text. How do we want to do the text is the other question. Items, so we'll need a combat item UI, really? I guess so. So inside our content, there will be what? An empty game object who is going to span the width of the entire thing. If I can figure out your width. Okay, cool. Stretch it lengthwise. Good. That's interesting. Whatever. This is our combat item UI because, you know, we don't have crazy names for all this stuff already. Actually, it's not all that crazy. Item UI and combat item UI is not that bad. I've definitely probably had worse. I can't think of it right now, but that might just be because I choose not to think about it right now. More sirens. Lovely. It also doesn't help that I live right next to a main thoroughfare here, so it just kind of, all the traffic right there, you hear it kind of constantly. At least if you have all the windows open like I do right now. We need text. And the text should span most of this thing, honestly. We'll give it some space on the left, but on the right, no extra space. Let's just stretch it to fit the whole friggin' thing. There we go. Much better. And instead of saying new text, which I can't read, I find that bizarre, but okay. I can't read it. But, item name. Maybe if I bring it up higher, I can see it. Kinda. You see it better, but I do not see it well. Now I can see it well. Center it there, and that should be enough. And you. No. Crap. I need to figure out essentially what the width is and then subtract off enough that the text is not being cut up. Its width, it's not telling me. Okay, you say the width is, you're not telling me. Does somebody here have an idea? Okay, the width is 256. 256 minus whatever that scroll bar thing is. So let's say, I don't know, 200. We might even go a little smaller off the left-hand side. Yeah, let's shift the item name over a little. There we go. That looks squarish. There we go. That looks better. That looks something like something I can take care of fairly easily. Item name, we'll have a bunch of these. When you select one, that'll be it. You then pick target, and then you're done. Also, I love how this thing is, like, it acts like it needs to be dynamically sized, but it isn't at the same time. Is that square? It's closer to square. I don't think it's a great square, but I'm just shifting it over slightly so it's not right up against the edge. Things right up against the edge tend to look a little ugly, look a little unrefined. Yeah, that works. Now each of these needs our script that we are about to make. Right, I have an item UI. Oh, it's actually inventory item UI. So I'll just call this combat item UI. I think I did UI as capital in all of these. Every time I typed it. Yeah, okay, good. I'm just kind of putting all the pieces together in my head as I make this. So if it seems a little unorganized right now, it's because it is incredibly unorganized. Hopefully it won't be too hard to take care of all of these. But yeah, it's one of those things where it takes a little work to get this tossed together. Okay, item U, so you are a prefab I want. First off. Secondly, once I delete this, this is what I want my combat UI to look like.
Are you almost done?
Yeah.
Okay.
What's
My
that?
wired connection hasn't been working since I got home.
Oh, shit, okay, yeah. We've been having router fun today. Yeah. Let's see what we can finish up, and then we'll call it a day, because apparently deadlines in the rest of the house. The wireless works, but my housemate has a wired connection, which means that he's kind of stuck. Okay, so inventory picker is initially going to be off. That's also a choice that we need to make sure is here. When you click in the combat UI to choose the item action, we need to do a few things. The combat UI needs to find a child that is the inventory picker. Set that to active. And we also want to turn off the action background. So just so that we have a better set of information that isn't going to... Did I not tie that in? I thought I tied this button in. Item button. Okay. It's probably the fact that this is a hand-generated one instead of one that the computer has generated, so there's no player attached to it. There's no information on it. It just is kind of missing all this stuff. Whoop, wrong way. Let's just bring this down to be side by side with our action background. And just because we can, let's actually make the two match in width. 400? Alright, 400. And then let's turn it back off, because that's overkill. Sweet. Apply. Delete. Now we get in a fight. I say item. And here's our empty item piece. The moment we spawn things in, I think I'm going to call it there for the day. I've unfortunately got a lot of other things to do. I have a turn signal to install in the car. I've got work that needs to get done around the house, and apparently a deadline from the router going on. So I'm going to cut this a little bit shorter than I'd like to, but I will definitely be at the very least, I'll be back on Monday mornings doing my usual weekly show. Otherwise, or weekly stream. It's not a show. Otherwise, I might see you guys tomorrow, depending on how much time I have and if we can get anything more done easily. Let's see. How do we get this inventory picker to fill up with stuff? That's the part that I really want to grab onto, is the ability here to get this to start filling with items, because you have to kind of go through some loops to do it right now. Specifically, when we put this here, here's the picker. We have to go viewport and then content and then put things under content, I'm pretty sure. I'm actually tempted to just like delete the horizontal scroll bar. No, don't actually do that though. Okay, viewport content. I need to remember that. For each inventory item in the is there some way I can get the owning character? Yes, of course there is. In the choice owner dot inventory slots. If item is a consumable item, for each one of these we want to, the combat UI needs a new reference. Needs a new template actually. It needs a template for the, where was it? The combat item UI. Yeah. Okay, cool. You're here. And prefab items, combat item UI. Sweet. Apply that. Now, for each object that matches, we say instantiate. Game object dot instantiate. There we go. Here's our new combat item UI in game object form, obviously. We then say combat item UI dot transform set parent to, this is the difficult-ish part here. We say it's the picker transform dot find child I need to bring back that combat UI again, just so I can keep looking at bits and pieces of it and names of things. Viewport slash content. There we go. Let's see. we increment the index, and we also say the combat item UI, we know it's going to have a pretty standard positioning. So we can just say 0 index times, for now I'm just going to hard code it because I just want to get through this, 32 and 0. Simple enough. So for example, the warrior has, I believe, whoops, we shouldn't leave that running. That's not nice. The warrior, I believe, has 3 health potions sitting in his inventory, so all of them should show up when we get into this fight and bring it up. I don't see any of them, but they're here. I just can't help but notice that it's set kind of bizarrely in terms of its positioning. They're way over here. So if I fix, whoops, this for these, right, their left and right is all kinds of messed up. Wow. So there's some work to be done here. At least a little more work to be done. Maybe if we set position and then set parent. The problem is this has to be generated pretty dynamically, and that makes it a little difficult. Alright, I'm going to think about this. I'm going to see if anyone else has any better solutions online as well. And I'm going to hop off in a couple moments. Thank you guys for joining me. One thing I am going to toss out there, for anybody who's watched game dev streams before, a while back there was a streamer by the name of Heart Lexicon. She unfortunately has passed away, and much to the lament of all game dev streamers here. And if you want to help out or show any support, if you knew Heart Lexicon, watched any of her streams, then I would urge you, I'm going to toss a link into chat. There's actually a memorial going on to help support her mother and help bring the body kind of back home from where it is currently. Unfortunately, you know, it's just one of those cases of a terrible loss. And, you know, if you guys can even just find words to say, I'm sure that's more than enough. But yeah, for those who want to know the story, she essentially worked at BioWare as a security specialist, was a fantastic programmer, streamed quite a bit. She worked on Lexibot, did some great things. And it is kind of terrible news. I only learned about it recently. But yeah, those who knew her better, Leon Zero, other big streamers, have been doing a great job putting out support and kind of getting the word around that not only has this terrible thing happened, but also that you know, they're helping support her mother as much as possible. So yeah, kind of the two pieces of information I've tossed in chat. But if you guys knew her or saw her at all, and you happen to you know, enjoy or benefit from Claire's streams, there are memorials and other kind of stuff going up, and I just kind of urge you to lend a helping hand. So yeah, that's really, I don't unfortunately have much more to say. I watched a bunch of her streams, was an avid fan, and then her Twitch stream went quiet as she moved on to other things. I just didn't know the terrible news until recently. So anyway, thanks for indulging me. Guys, I hope you have a good rest of your evening, day, whatever. I will be tossing this and my other videos up on YouTube afterwards. So if you haven't been able to catch every stream or you want to catch up, my YouTube channel is linked below. That's pretty much it. Thanks for joining me again, everybody. You guys are all fantastic. Take care. Bye.